Welcome to the Cool Fireman Podcast, a virtual firehouse kitchen table with What's a Rolfie, Unkie, Fireman 1231,
East Coast Kellys,
JDB Cubed, and Fireman Freddy. Let's get to the show.
So we're just starting.
Starting.
Welcome.
Here we go.
Yes, let's go. Welcome to episode, is it 48, I think?
No, man. Don't know. Episode 1,232,500.
Who knows?
I'm
We're
Unkie
close to
from
50.
Unkie Seasonings, and this is Brian Kelly from East Coast Kellys. And since he's our newest co-host of the podcast, tonight he's going to be hosting it. You're there, Mr. Brian.
I am super stoked to be doing this. Folks, if you've listened to any of the last couple podcasts, one of the things I wanted to try to do by coming on was try to keep the flow of these podcasts coming, because I know I enjoyed them. I loved hearing just the stories from folks like Adam and Doug and Matt and Freddie. And so I loved hearing all that stuff, and I just wanted to keep it coming. So if I can be a little thorn in the side and keep you satisfied, then that's what it's all about. So special shout out to Doug and his family. They were going to be here tonight, but they lost their family pet last night. I don't want to say the name because I'm going to butcher it. He did put it in a text, but our heart goes out to them. I know we lost our 17-year-old dog last year. Excuse me. And so that was kind of a rough thing for families to go through. So especially when you're a firefighter and you're not there, part of the reason why we got a dog was to provide that companionship when we weren't there. So I'm sure there's probably a similar story going on. And if you're a firefighter and you lost a pet, you know what that's like. So y'all remember them. So, Unkie.
Yes, sir.
Turning 40.
Yep. Later this month, I'll be turning 40.
Yeah.
It's
so
a big year for birthdays in my family.
Yeah. How looking back on it now, 40 years in, right? Like, you can talk fire service if you want to, or you can just look at it on 40. Is this where you thought you'd be at 40, or what do you think?
Oh, no, definitely not where I thought I would be at 40, but I'm perfectly happy with it.
Sure.
I love it. I'm glad this is my plan. God had a little bit better plan than mine. So, and I'm perfectly fine with that, man. Just the other day, a guy was talking about his EMT research. He's like, yeah, I got my research this year. And I started thinking, I was like, come June, that'll be 20 years just as an EMT, and 21 in August as a firefighter. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
It's flown by, but it's all right.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. I mean, you've got two brand new baby girls at home, not so much babies anymore. Well, I mean, they're still babies, but they're not new babies, right?
Yeah. They're 7 or 8 months old. So.
Yeah, that seems like just yesterday we were listening to the podcast, and you and I were texting about how your wife was pregnant, and fast forward, man, here it is. Yeah. So man, what I wanted to do tonight as co-host or as host is I just wanted to throw some love to Adam and really talk about throw him out some questions, right? Like we do turnout drills here, but I really just wanted to throw some questions out to him. If you haven't, I want you to go back and listen to the 2448 podcast. Sam did something similar to this, and that's probably been, close to a year ago?
I would say it's over a year. I recorded it, and it's about a year ago it aired.
It aired, yeah.
Recorded in November.
Yeah.
Over a year ago.
So some of these questions or maybe be repeats, but a year later, right? Like, really, what does it look like a year later? So these are going to be different and situationally dependent, but the beauty of the 2448, and I've done a recording too, and mine hasn't dropped yet, but the point of that was they really wanted to showcase entrepreneurs in the fire service. And we kind of hit around to it with Tom from the Burn Box. And that's what led me to ask these kind of questions of you, right? Because I feel like we talk a lot about the fire service, but what we fail to dive into, and we talk about leadership and tactics and stuff on this channel, but what we fail to realize is the life away from the firehouse that has to deal with finances. And I think as a husband, as a father, or even for the ladies who may be listening that are firefighters, obviously you're in that workplace to provide a financial means for your family, right? So anytime that you can support it through your primary job, but also supplement it through something that you love, that's important. And so somebody may stumble upon this podcast and be looking to make the leap into entrepreneurship. And I think you, who have been there, done that, and took that leap, can be a mentor to them. So that's kind of what I wanted to do tonight, which is ask you some turnout drill questions, and then we'll kind of go from there. So, we've kind of heard the story about, the multiple generations of the McCoys and how they were firefighters, but what made you want to get into being an entrepreneur and, just starting your own business? I know the story of how Elizabeth Salt came about, but, what made you want to start selling it?
Well, Elizabeth Salt came up with that 7 years 7 years before we even thought about forming a business. So what it came down to, the pandemic was starting. Broke my foot, had a lot of spare time on my hand. I was sobering up because I was drunk. And so I needed something to keep my hands busy. So that Christmas, everything kind of just fell into place. The pandemic started, so everybody jumped on TikTok. I'm watching everybody on there. Families and friends were asking me to bottle some seasonings for them so they can give away for family and friends for Christmas. And, pay you. And I'm like, don't worry about it, because they're my close friends. And then my wife was like, go ahead. They're going to pay you. Do it.
Yeah.
And I started watching videos of Dan Oliver on TikTok, and I started talking to him, and he was my mentor. So as he was starting out, and he started, took off like a fireball, within the year, he was my mentor. We called and talked on the phone, and he showed me a lot of love. It was fantastic. And I was like, talking to my wife about it, and she's like, yeah, if that's what you want to do it. So I just used it really in the beginning to keep my hands busy. And while I was sobering up and everything, come April 8th, 4 years. So that's been fantastic. On a side note, that's when I grew up. Yeah. So I finally matured, hit that part of puberty. Still working on the facial hair part of puberty. But
some of us can't grow up, just so you know, even at 43, I can't grow it. So cheers to you.
Baby face.
I know. I can't do it.
So it's just something that was to keep my hands busy. I was just passionate about. Look at me. I'm 300 pounds, 6'4". I love to eat. So I just got tired of plain seasonings, and at that time there was not a lot on the market. And with the pandemic, supply chain issues, a lot more companies started coming out.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of been a passion for me. I would just, I don't know. I think I answered it.
Yeah, you did. You did the best. It was perfect. And what I would say to everyone, I don't know that we'll dive in a whole lot to his different seasoning blends and stuff in here tonight. That's really not, I don't know that this is necessarily the platform to do that, unless you decide to talk about that as part of it. But what I would say is, obviously, go follow him on his socials. He's got recipes. He's got ideas. He's in that network. He's part of supporting firefighters with that small business. But, every one of those, I think the beauty of it is, and I'm just saying this as a guy who's been following your journey, right, and been blessed to be part of it, is every one of them has a story, right? Like you just said that. You're like, in the middle of the pandemic, when the market was there, I chose to get into this. But every one of those seasoning blends has a story and has a flavor. Even for the ones that wasn't inspired by someone in your family or someone that you knew, it was still tested at the firehouse. It still was part of that combination of, if you will, of brutal truth and honesty, right? Which is where you said I grew up, right? So like you put yourself in a space of huge vulnerability at one of your most susceptible. Did I say that right? I don't know. Either way, but when you were most vulnerable parts of your life, right, as you were looking for sobriety. So how cool is that?
It is,
So
and it was a great process. Doing stuff in my firehouse, doing stuff at my brother's firehouse, as everybody else, to be firehouse tested, firehouse approved. And it's been pretty cool. I had a lot of support. Some of those people and the local circle, when you start doing something and start being better for yourselves, they go quickly from supporters to haters.
yeah,
And I love saying, customers are quickly to become your friends, then your friends to become your customers.
yeah,
And one of my biggest customers is my friend Cheryl, Countryside Butterfly, Gifts by Countryside Butterfly. We do little collabs together and her little channel and entrepreneur stuff. She works for the local soccer club for little kids. Her son's in. I'm a sponsor for them. She's become one of my great friends in my inner circle. So when I talk about labels with you, she gets the same text message. She's the part of my little knit community and everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's a good question. That's a good segue into my next question is how do you find the time to balance all of those things? I know sometimes when I text you, you're very apologetic and you say, hey, look, I had to spend, and I don't necessarily hear from you for a day or so, which is fine. I get it, right? Like sometimes I'm not as fast to respond as I should, but how do you balance that? You know, you're a brand new dad of twins, a federal firefighter working a wonky schedule, right? Yeah. And a successful entrepreneur and a husband, right? You gotta add that in there too. So how do you balance all that for that person that's thinking about doing this and they go, oh God, how am I going to do this? How does Adam do that?
Well, I got Supermom. I'm married to Supermom. She's been supportive from day one. And she's been fantastic. My wife, like right now, she's watching the twins. They're both sick. I think they probably went down for a nap, but she's extremely supportive. She lines the twins up to get a doctor's appointment, this, that, other thing, and she lets me know what I got to do when she's gone to work and I'm at home. So like during the day with dealing with twins is, in nap time, trying to do stuff. And right now we're doing everything with my wife's channel. So much to sow botanicals, working on laying out the garden and stuff like that. It just, I don't know, man. It really comes down to family and friends. You do a lot of promotional stuff for me. You set up the ball for me with a co-packer, which linked into other stores and the stores that you find for me. So it's what's the word? Delegate. There you go. That's the part of your vocabulary there, Chief. Delegate.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got to surround yourself. You got to surround yourself with people that want to be successful and want to see you successful, right? And I say that want to be successful, meaning that they want the whole team to be successful, right? Yeah. And it's not just about them. And it sounds like that's what you've got. I mean,
I've just been fortunate. My parents, they're involved.
Say your dad and mom, yeah.
Nana, Papa Mac, my parents, they go out to farmers markets. They just went to the Virginia's Fire and Rescue Conference with me. Yeah. My dad was there the whole time. From the last day, I brought the closer, my mom. Yeah. She's a fantastic saleswoman.
How about Smoke on the Mountain last year with the whole thing?
I'm looking at it. What was that? We went 2 years ago.
Okay.
2 years ago. And my parents, my wife, my son, and my brother, we all went. We rented out a house out there in Galax and just had a ball. And it was a blast.
And I'm sure in moments like that, that's not about if you came back and cleared a profit, right? Like that's about a memory, right?
Oh yeah, that thing was I broke even on that So it was awesome. I made friends out there. I still in touch with them. Um, they're was it not supporters? They're coordinators for the event, and one of them works for like tourism there. So we're always chit chatting still. So it was a fantastic time going out there and meeting people. It was fantastic. I want to go out there with like a firefighter barbecue team, do the backyard barbecue, and just go and have fun. Like you, me, Nick, Doug. So we're kind of
Yeah, when is it? When is this again? I need to put it on my calendar.
That's usually in July. I'm not. I'm working this year. I told him I couldn't come. Because I just want to go and just have fun. There's a lot of big popular teams out there and stuff like that. So my buddy Josh Towers that owns Hook and Ladder Barbecue in Suffolk, Virginia, the fire truck that's a giant smoker.
Mm-hmm.
He used to go out there a lot, and he hasn't done it in a couple of years. So he's willing to bring his stuff up there, not the truck, because that's just way too much diesel fuel for the fire truck.
Yeah, that would be a lot.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just, I mean, I've been blessed with all these opportunities and just people just coming into my life and into my inner circle, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, it sounds like that. Big takeaway that I heard from that right then was it's really about the team, right? And so whether that's your family, whether that's people that want to support you, whether that's whatever, that it's really about finding that team. And so maybe for that person that doesn't have the close niche, right? Because there are some folks that don't have the vast network available to them that you have.
Mm-hmm.
They can probably find one or two people that can just support them, and whatever it is that they want to do as an entrepreneur, they can just hit the ball running and just find it. So kind of along that same thought process, can you maybe share some of the skills that maybe you think that you've learned over your firefighting career that have helped you be successful as an entrepreneur? What are some of those skills like that maybe would overlap?
Cooking is one thing. That's
No
the
doubt.
main thing in the seasoning business.
Yeah.
I've been a few stations a couple of years ago. They would just have a cook. That was your responsibility, and that position kind of comes and goes, depending with the crowd. I got to be like a main cook. I was the person that was cooking every shift, and just kind of my time in the city, the people I met. I learned how they cook and their style, which is more of a local style and a real small regional. But when I got in the federal service, I got people that served in the military, people that are from other countries.
Yeah.
One captain I work with, he's been with the DOD for 10 years. He's from Italy. He married a U.S. military woman, and he came with her. So I watch him. So I see these people that just travel around the world, been stationed around the world, and they learn things. And I just
by the way, when I come up to visit, I'm going to need to go to that shift in that station when he's cooking. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if he's a decent cook, I'd like to do that.
He made us a meal, and the commissary on base didn't have all the ingredients he wanted, but it was I like Americanized Italian.
It was different, huh?
Yeah, it's like you go to your local Mexican restaurant and you eat it, you love it. Now go to Anaheim, go to South California.
It's different.
And try to order the same thing. They're gonna look at you like you're stupid. I did that. I went to Anaheim. I asked for a queso, and they're like they don't put cheese on their
You asked for white people taco night.
That's right. And I was like, I don't care for that.
Right.
I'd rather have my East Coast restaurant. So, excuse me.
So if you, other than cooking, what kind of other skills do you think maybe that you picked up from captains or mentors or things like that outside of cooking, like the fundamentals of running the business, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, the man that's on camera right now is that CEO. So he is the one who
Yeah.
who tells people what to do, where to go. He's got to be the visionary. I got to tell you, the creativity of it. I got to brag on you for a second. Sometimes I just text you and I'm like, "Hey, I need help with this," and you've helped me out in my own business, right? Like when I was doing some work with some other people, and so I would say that's a skill that I think you have is leading from the front. I don't know that you know that, but it's probably something that you've learned in the fire service, and you're able to help people with that. You stop what you're doing and you help people. I mean, I texted you and you were like, "Yeah, we're on some standby. Hold on, I'm doing this on my phone." And I was like, "I can't get it to work on a computer." And here Adam is over here helping me with this graphic
Yeah.
on his cell phone.
Yeah, I
So
told you I
things
was too
like
busy for you. I was like, I'm busy doing this, that, and other thing. And you sent me back what somebody else sent you. And I was like,
your
okay,
ADHD,
you got me. You hooked me. Like, that is garbage. Let me do something real better. I said, mine's not perfect, but it's a lot better than what you just showed me.
no doubt, no doubt. And that's kind of where, other than the cooking and the leading from the front, what other things do you think you've learned over your fire service experience that has kind of been the things that drove you in a positive way, as well as a way of saying, I'm not going to do that, right? As my owner of my own company, as I grow, I'm not going to be that person.
Um, the positive stuff that I've learned in my life is really coming from outside the fire department.
Yeah.
I've always been, I still feel like I am today. I'm behind the scene person. I like to give everybody the tools and everything they need to be successful. And I just like to sit back in the cup, sit back and relax. I don't like, I don't know. I don't like all the praise and stuff like that. I'm not really big on that. Um, I've always been in my youth group as a child in the church. I've always been a behind the scene person. I did a lot of technical stuff, and I enjoyed that because it's kind of like I can walk around and do whatever and nobody bothers me. They don't know who I am, and I enjoy that being behind the scenes. So I've always been like that. Make sure everybody has everything they need. Then we came to like the business side. I learned everything from my mom. My mom was a special investigator for the local commissioner of revenues. So the tax man. So it's not the treasurer. Treasurer just plays with the money and moves it between the departments. The revenue is the real one that goes after it.
Yeah.
And so my mom was a special investigator for them. And during high school, actually, it was early high school. I wasn't even driving yet. I was DJing, just like Sam. No, not like Sam. Sam was like, oot, 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 oot. But I just played music and for little events and stuff. Started with the church, and then I started working with a local radio station, and the boss, I mean, he did DJing too. So he helped me. He's like, "This is what you need, the equipment you need to get." And I started working at the radio station. So still living at home. You have the expendable income.
Yeah.
And I bought all my equipment and started doing that. And my mom helped me with the taxes and this, that, and all, setting it all up. So, and she's been fantastic with that with me. Going to dive back in it now since the business is getting bigger, getting her more involved with it. So I've been handling it pretty well for the past couple of years. But so yeah, my mom's been helping mentor me on the business side. The paperwork and stuff. And it's been, so a lot of stuff I learned from outside the fire department. What I've learned inside the department is I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
See those people that are, I've been in my fire department. I've been the young, dumb rookie, the young firefighter. I've been the dumb firefighter. I've been the drunk firefighter. Been the out of control guy. I've been the a-hole. I've been the bully, and as I matured in the past couple of years, I'm about to knock everything off. For people that are just listening, I am talking with my hands really bad. So,
That's okay. It's okay.
sit on them. So I've been all those persons and had the bad attitude coming to work and this, that, and other thing. And in the past couple of years, I really felt like I've grown up and also turned another corner when my wife was pregnant with my girls. I started really turning it, a different direction. And I just can't stand the guys that are jerks, like bullies. I know we joke around, tease everybody. Like, I'm hard on you about being a chief, but I absolutely adore and love you, buddy.
Yeah.
And I play sometimes a little too hard. But these guys are like, they can get malicious.
Yeah.
Or they'll just take anything positive. The other day, I was praising a guy. He's a paramedic with us. He got promoted to paramedic, and I heard him on the radio. I was like, man, he's really earning his money because he's always on the ambulance. And he's at a busy base that goes into the city. And instead of just saying, yeah, man, he's doing a good job because he's fantastic, got all these awards, his response was, well, he does that to himself. He volunteers to be on the ambulance every day. And that's not fair. He does that to himself. He earns his pay just like everybody else. Everybody else is not earning their pay because they're not on the ambulance like they should be. I'm like, I was just praising this dude, and you quickly, all you want to do is just chop this guy down.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this guy's a phenomenal paramedic. He's not even there, and I'm giving this guy props. And this other guy just tried to destroy him. I was like, cool, and just walked on.
Walk away. Sometimes it's the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody knows from my podcast, our tagline is faith, family, and food. And it's funny you say that. I watch a pastor. I don't even know his name. I just love seeing him. But he talks about it, and he talks about how a pastor had some ladies who worked at the church, and they came in and they would gossip about each other, and it really bothered him. And so he prayed about it, and he said, what do I do? And he said, he said, God, just reveal it to me, whatever I should do for this. And he said, the one lady came in and they started doing it. And he said, you're exactly right. We ought to pray for her. You lead. And they prayed. And that lady prayed for her, the other lady, and she never came back in. And if you're not a faith believer, if you don't believe in that, what I would say is maybe it's in that moment that you say, okay, so what should he do? Right? Have you thought about maybe especially if it's peer to peer, right? It's one thing to say something behind somebody's back. It's another thing to try to have that conversation. And I'm not saying you should pick a fight or whatever, but in that moment, it's so easy to belittle or to talk down to somebody who may be showing you up, right?
Yeah.
Who's more motivated than you are. And, circling back to the question that I asked you, I think you answered it spot on about, what things overlap and growing up, right? Your business has caused you to grow up. Life has caused you to grow up. Age has caused you to grow up, right? Things have just have caused you to mature over that time. And some of those are fire service influences, but like you said, a lot of that's just life.
Yeah.
Right.
Your priorities change in life. Everything get changed. You can say it for you, a well-established family. You know, you got your boys, one in high school, one in middle school?
Middle school, yeah.
So, I mean, you're well-established way you do stuff, your priorities. But in a couple of months, something could shift, when the oldest one's out of the house. Well, I just want to change your priorities a little bit more, or whatever directions. If you're not growing, you're dying, Yeah. And it's just, oh man, it's just, you just got to keep going and constantly evaluate yourself, what you're doing, your priorities. And that's also what's helped me juggle everything is I tell everybody all the time, I have no shame in it. I go to therapy. I started therapy a couple of years before I went sober. She's awesome, my therapist. And we talk about it, about juggling and trying to prioritize everything. And I'm not necessarily doing everything the way she wants it, but it's working. I'm getting the results that she wants.
Sure.
Not doing it away. And it's just help categorizing. I'm like, do I need to do these 100 things right now? No. I need to make a list. Yeah, I only need to do 3 of these right now. And if I get time, I got 7 other things that I'm able to do today. So it's just, and sometimes you just got to take a break and just breathe and be like, you know what? I'm not worrying about it today.
Well, and that's so cool. I listened to another podcast called At the Table with Patrick Lencioni, and it's a leadership-based podcast. And it's not, I think I mentioned it on the first podcast that I was on, but it talks about basically learning how to juggle things, right? And he taught, well, and it's not just juggling things. That's not the only one, but that was one of the episodes he had. And he talked about it. He said, imagine someone trying to juggle 10 things, right? And so if you went back, how did they learn? They learned by just throwing a ball up in the air, right? And then they added a second one. And then they added a third one, and then they added a fourth one, and they added a but at some point they were very proficient at juggling multiple things. And then as they got to that point, the risk all of a sudden wasn't worth the reward. You were still juggling, right? But were you juggling well? What kind of stress were you putting on yourself to juggle those 10 things versus those 3 things?
Yeah.
Just like you said.
3 chainsaws and be good.
Right. If you can. And so I think that speaks volumes. And I not positive affirmation, but a little truth and transparency. That is one thing that I struggle with, right? Personally, is I struggle with telling people no. As having my own business, people will say, hey, do you guys do this or whatever for my consulting company? And I'm like, man, I just missed out on a sale, right? Like I just missed out on a contract. And I could do that. They obviously thought that I could because they thought I could. They asked me, did I do it? So I need to do this. I need to go find something. And so sometimes when people ask that you can do something, they think you have the ability, right? I tell people this all the time, especially at work. Desire and ability are 2 different words in the dictionary for a reason. But just because you have the ability doesn't mean that you have the desire, right? Because if you had the desire, you'd have already been doing it, right? Having your own business. But the other part of that is just because you have the desire doesn't mean you have the ability. There are 2 different things, right? Like I wanted to be a amazing firefighter. And the fact of the matter of it was I was not. I was a better prevention guy. I was better at engaging with the public. I was better at engaging with the science and the code enforcement piece of that. That's where I am. That's why I am where I am right now. That's why there's some people in hazmat. There's some people in paramedics. That's why we have painters and everything else. Those are all God-given talents. So for those who are listening, he just called me a nerd.
What?
But what? I did not do that. But it's true. And so as long as we stay focused in those areas, man, we're going to be so successful. So I want to say that your thought process about juggling and everything else, and that was a good segue into this next one, which was how do you think you foster teamwork and collaboration, right? Because Adam can't do everything. So how do you think you foster teamwork and collaboration in firefighting as well as in your small business?
Collaborate with everything in there. Well, I'm a
like whether that's just meshing with a crew, right? Or, I mean, you've been blessed to surround yourself with pretty cool people.
Yeah.
Not on your business, but like how do you think you foster that? I mean, obviously it's your charming behavior and character, right? But outside of that, what do you think it is?
I don't know. I try to get along with everybody. I mean, I got ADD so bad I just forgot where to really with the core. Repeat the question.
Well, and it didn't help. I said it like 5 different ways.
Yeah.
But how do you foster teamwork and collaboration at both the firehouse and in your business?
Okay. At the firehouse, the collaboration, in my house, there's a couple guys that are really supportive. We'll just shoot ideas and thoughts. Just cooking a meal and then I'll take some photos of it. A couple guys have expressed interest in trying to do a seasoning with me, and I guess ADD between us two, it kind of fizzled out.
Mm-hmm.
And but outside, I like collaborating people like you,
Mm-hmm.
Freddie, Doug, Nick, Matt, other people. I mean,
Taylor's Tins. Yeah.
what?
Taylor's
Oh,
Tins.
Taylor, yeah,
Yeah.
and he was the
It's
inspiration.
huge. That's huge. Absolutely huge.
I'll go on a rant about Taylor in a little bit. Don't worry, it's positive. But I just I've got when I do collaborations, it's I don't live the brotherhood lifestyle. The old typical New York, our kids raise up together. You know, your kid's got a ball game, I'm going to your kid's ball game. I'm not that kind of brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was in the union for years and fought that style of brotherhood because we were doing a lot of legislation work and everything. We needed to work together. Which I'm out of that. I can breathe now. But you know, I've always been attacked by this one guy, same guy I keep talking about, you know, oh, you're not for the brotherhood. Oh, you go on this podcast and talk about it. And I was like, you don't even listen to it. You don't even listen to it because most of the time, you and me talk about, I sit and watch and listen to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I am in part of the firefighter community. That's why I like this style.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
you, Freddie, Nick, all these guys got little businesses. First in, first out, coffee. We've done stuff with him. Great guy. A bunch of other people. Fire baked cookies. I've done stuff with. You know, I don't have to do it. I mean, I'm not no big like Nick, 1 million followers or anything. If I was, I still do it because I support everybody. Because Dan Oliver supported me. You know, he was a mentor to me. And just talking about the Spice Game, he's like, there's plenty of room. And he says, there's so many flavors, and if I come up with their own thing, there's plenty of room in the market. I made friends with Fuego Lento Seasonings, right? He's a realtor. He's not a firefighter. But I made friends with his cooking crew, and I made friends with him. So when we're two seasoning companies that talk every other 2 weeks with each other. What are you doing? How are you doing this? How are you doing that? You know, trading ideas. That lemon pepper, that was my idea.
Oh, man. Okay.
I love giving him a hard time about it. I was like, hey, man, how's my lemon pepper idea working out for you? And he's like, oh. But it's just, I love being the background guy, being the supportive person. You know, if I have an opportunity to help somebody, I try to. I want everybody to succeed in this business. Doesn't matter what business you are. If there's a niche for it, there's a buyer for it. I wish you well. I want to support you. You know, I support my competition, as I air quote it. I support. I don't talk crap about Dan Oliver. I'm sorry, I'm putting you to sleep. I don't talk crap about AFL and other companies publicly. There's one guy that I don't like, but I only talk about him in private. So I support all these people because they've been amazing, and you are one of them. Support me and help me out so much. And one of the other guys is the Par Check. What's your status guy? Fat Apparel, faithful, accountable, teachable. That is my buddy Derek. We used to work at my base together before he started traveling with a job. We had a lot of alpha alpha people in our station. They would sit there, bicker and argue, and they only show up in front of the captain, and the captain loved to stir the pot. Mm-hmm. So he was the paramedic. He always got thrown in the ambulance. But there's the old school captain that doesn't like EMS stuff. Mm-hmm. So he says, but you're on the ambulance today, but you get to pick your partner. He always picked me. And those guys just started blah, blah, blah. You know what? Trying to show how smart each other are. He goes, let's go, man. So we would go get some sunflower seeds and we just drive around and be gone for hours. And we bonded and we talked a lot about faith and religion. And he went overseas for a little bit. Then he came to back South Carolina and retired down in Paris Island. And he's trying to be more involved in my life. And he's been my little candle back, keeping my faith, helping me out with my faith. And he's been the number one guy that me and my wife always called when we came to the twins. From starting the IVF process, he's like, call me before you go in, we'll pray. And everything.
How awesome. How awesome.
First one that we called and told it's a girl. And he was the first one we called and said, they split, they're twins. And he was the first one I called and said, hey, they've been born.
Yeah.
And my wife agrees with me on this. He's been the first person, and just respectfully, just be the first person because he's been such a major influence in our life. Yeah. And he does his own apparel company. So I work with him. I went and I did the same thing that Tails 10 did for me. I bought a bunch of his stuff and I took it to the fire conference and sold it. I told him, I was like, you don't give me a cost. Give me it at what you would sell it at. Give me it and I'm going to sell it for the same price. He's like, you're not going to make no money. I said, I don't care. I'm helping him. Taylor did with me with the chili seasoning bundle.
Yeah.
We sent out many bottles up to him. And he's like, I was like, well, I'll charge you this. He was like, no. He's like, how much would you, if you sell this on the street, how much you would pay for it? I told him. And he goes, that's what you're getting. So he's always, and I like the challenge of somebody trying to out nice me. So he asked for 500. I think he asked for I don't know. Like he asked for 250. I sent him 500.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah. So he did get him at cost. And dealing with Taylor, it's been phenomenal. And doing collabs with him and chit-chatting with him. And I mean, gosh, what really sparked our conversation talking was his episode of the 2448 podcast. Yeah. And I mean, he was like speaking to me or telling my story. And he's like, I doing entrepreneur stuff and, I'm not dumping it into being a firefighter. If I put my business skills and was able to put it towards firefighter, I'd be a real good firefighter. He says, but I'm not. I do the business stuff. And, he was a drinker too. So, and he dove into his side business when he sobered up, he stopped drinking. And I'm like, this guy.
That's usually what happens when people sober up. I'm just saying they quit drinking.
Well, but, yeah. I mean, some people,
You were on a roll. I'm sorry. I just messed it up.
I'm drinking now. But, so, I mean, he inspired me. I was like, okay. I was like, I'm really going to start diving into it. And, if you see my room, I'm in my office. So people there I got a bunch of
tins. There's lots of tins.
And I got a box of them. I didn't put up yet.
Yeah.
So I get tins made for my business, and I send them out to stores that I'm in, some stores, so they can put.
I love mine. You gave me as a gift. I love it.
And
it's in my work office. It's not even in my personal office. I want to look at it every day.
Nice.
And so that's why I put it.
I got yours because everyone that's sent out, I made a copy, so I got yours up on the wall too.
That's awesome.
And so yeah, dealing with him, and it sounds like it's a bad thing, but it's been fantastic. I can call him. We had a 30-minute conference business meeting doing on TikTok live at 4:30 in the morning.
Wow.
The twins. I was up feeding the twins, and I put him back down. And when I go to smoke a cigarette, start scrolling TikTok, he was on there by himself. Nobody was watching. We had a 30-minute business meeting with each other.
That's nuts.
Just chit-chatting. And, so I've been very fortunate. I've been brought into his group of guys at fire conferences. So I got invited to be under his umbrella with Box 31, Capital City Industries, Box Alarm Grills, uh, BA Shields. We were all there, minus Taylor, because he was in Texas at the time. And they invited me to come to Safer
Paper.
in
Yeah.
North Carolina, which Brian's been begging me to come to the past couple of years.
Yes, it's
So
huge.
I've
It's
been
huge.
I've been invited to come under the Taylor's 10 umbrella for that also. So I'm hoping next year, as long as I keep getting a good report card, I got a good report card from the Virginia conference. I'm hoping to join them in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania for the Lancaster. You know, I'm talking about the magazine. But anyways, that's another big one. So
How awesome is that? And, I keep going back to some of the initial questions that I have, but those skills, whether it's Fat, or whether it's Taylor, you picked up skills. You picked up skills. You picked up people who invested in you, right? Like, and that's what it is.
and I try
Those
to share them, especially like
yeah,
as you see, try to share them with you and everything
yeah,
because you're so nice and so kind to me, and if I can pay it back some way,
yeah. I had explorers at my firehouse, and so there was we trained on some basic PPE last month, and there was 3 of them there, and then I had 3 more that came in this month, and so I had the 3 that were there last month do turnout gear drills with the new 3 this month, and I said I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let you train them, and so for brand new, right? They got dressed. I told them how to do it, and then they did it by themselves. It was 2 minutes and 42 seconds, which is really long, but these are like 10, 15, or like 15-year-old kids. They're not, they're not very old. So as they dressed out, they improved that night within to like a minute. We drilled like 5 or 6 times, and it got to the point of where they were really fast. So with that being said, it got to the point where when those kids invested in their friends and they taught them how to do it because they were paired up, because it was now about a team and it was competitive and it was investments. The ones who were there the month before shaved a minute to a minute and a half. So what they started out at 2:42, the newbies were down to less than a minute and a half. They made the truck, right? And that was not to my credit. All I just said is you owe it to this new person to invest in them the lessons that you learned last month. So show them. You got 5 minutes out in the hallway. Walk them through how to do it. You guys run through it once or twice, and then we're going to come in here. We're going to do it for time. And nobody was over 2 minutes the first go around. So they were shaving 45 seconds to a minute off. And I think that's what it goes back to, right? So whether it's driving around in an ambulance to get away from negativity and someone just investing in you, or whether they pray with you, or whether it's Taylor's 10 who at 4:30 in the morning invests with you, right?
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
thing. And so for that person, going back to the person who may be still listening, I don't know, and who's thinking about starting a business as a firefighter, as an entrepreneur, and is scared to death, find someone who's willing to invest in you. They don't have to know about the passion of what you're passionate about, but they're just willing to be an accountability partner. They're willing to be somebody who is willing to listen, champion you, right? And invest in you. Then that may be your wife, it may be a girlfriend, it may be a fellow firefighter, it may be anything, but that's what it is. Yeah. So wanting to wrap it up, we've been going, I don't know how long, but we've been going a while. I got one more question for you.
Okay.
Looking ahead, we've talked a lot about the past, but looking ahead, what are your aspirations, do you think, for both your firefighting career? And I know that's a little bit of a slippery slope, and you and I've had that conversation. When I say slippery slope, I know that you have a couple of different desires, right? Mm-hmm. But also as the business owner. So what do you think you're going to do in both of those worlds?
I got a couple more years left to get the minimum retirement. Let's kind of make it through. Keep doing me. But I see that the light in the tunnel. My time's coming. I've done it. I've been a firefighter for 21 years. I'm rounding the curve. So, and I just want to expand with Unkie Seasonings. It's doing fantastic, very well. kind of want to start taking it to the next level. And as you and me had talked about it, I'm doing it this year with Chuck Hall, he being the co-packer, and trying to push into Food Line this year. So you and me are very excited for that.
Yes,
And
very much.
so that's what's kind of, do my time, fade out of the fire department, and those doors will still go up the next day.
That's right.
So just a number, the truck will still go.
So let me give a shout out real quick before you finish up your thought there. Chuck Hall, Tidewater Grain. Y'all go find
firefighter.
Another firefighter, right? So I just want to kind of share a little bit of the backstory of that. So I was at the North Carolina State Fair. I met him as I was making my rounds as part of the Got to Be NC. I kind of mentioned this on my podcast, and he told me he was a firefighter and he grows rice in Eastern North Carolina. And as we were chatting, he talked about how he did the packaging for some other folks that are local to here that I know. And then he told me he was a retired faithful firefighter and yada, yada, yada. And then next thing you know, he talked about co-packing. And that was something that Adam and I had been talking about just separately, independently away from here about, as we did our collabs with the Buttery Rosemary, the Fire Marshal, and just how busy it was for Adam to try to get the volume of mixing that at home. It literally kind of just, that's a godsend, right? Like in my mind.
Timing. Good Lord with the timing, man.
Yeah. That's all back to that faithful, accountable, and teachable, right?
Yep.
It goes back to that fat mentality. And so I think that's the beauty of it. So big dreams, big visions. There's a couple of other pitches that outside of Food Line, the grocery store, that we've been working on. I know there's one more for sure that is a big retailer that has asked us to pitch Unkies to. And so, what did you say on the 2448 on the promo? You said you wanted to be where on the shelf?
I told Chuck this. I said, I set my bars low, which is fine. They're achievable. I wanted to be at the local grocery store, Food Line, in my regional area on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
I told Chuck that. He goes, he says, that's all you want to do? I was like, that's just my first big goal. He's like, I got you there, buddy. I know some people at Food Line. I was like, all right. He says, we'll do that. He says, we'll do that a little bit more. I was like, all right.
How cool is that, right?
It is. Now, I got a little business advice for anybody that's starting out, that's starting their own business or has a friend that started a business. One, I got learned from my buddy Derek from Fat Apparel, score.org. Like you're going to score in the game, SCORE.org. I had to think about it.
There's the outtake right there for the promo.
So it's a free mentoring program. You can get a physical person that will Zoom and chat and tell you how to start a business plan, do your taxes, how to deal with AI and advertising, all kinds of stuff. And most of the time I just sign up for them. If I can attend the class, I watch it. If not, they send you the recording, any kind of paperwork with it. So you kind of glance over the PowerPoint, but that's a tremendous help. Score.org. If you have a friend that has a business, and I've talked to some other people at the fire conference about it, support them. Don't sit there and just ask for free stuff. You can, don't ask for free stuff. Support by buying something or whatever their services is. Participate in it. If it's a little pricey, a like, a share, and a follow is free.
Is free. That is huge. You and I had a very heart-to-heart conversation about that like 2 to 3 weeks ago. I know I vented about that. I hear that a lot, and from local folks, and they're like, oh, I saw that video that you did on everything else. And it's very hard for me Not to be like, yeah, but you didn't like it. You didn't share it. You didn't do whatever. And part of me says that that's also the firehouse mentality. People don't want it to be known that, because that's the same people that when someone's successful, you're probably the person they're talking crap about. And I'm just being straight up, right? Like that's just the way that it is. If you're successful and you're proving yourself in a different way, that's the one that they're talking smack about. And so if they share your stuff, guess what? Now all of a sudden you're the suck up or you're the one that's doing, all these other things. But like you said, it's also people who just want to get something for free. I mean, same thing with me. People will come to me and they're like, oh, can I get some of that for free? Or why don't you cook for me or whatever? And I'm like, yeah, yes, understand my channel content is based off of cooking for my family. I'm not making so much money that I can just go around and feed the whole world. Would I love to do that? Yes. But at the end of the day, I have not quit my day job, right? Like I am still hustling and I have 2 jobs and everything else. So that's not what it's about. This is about a community and a camaraderie together, right? It just so happens that it's there. And I think that's what you found too, like, right? Like your social media is about advertising, but it's also about creating a network.
Yeah. And the people that I have been invited to the fire stations to cook, and I have done it at another base, actually for another branch. He's in the Army, about an hour north of me. He's also a business guy. So he asked me to come up and cook. I was like, oh, well, okay. He says, I'll buy everything. He says, I'll even buy your seasonings. You come up. I just want you to come up here, give everybody the spiel, bring some seasonings to sell. I'll bring the food for you to cook. And he says, I'll help it. He says, I'll do most of it. I just gotta show up and with a pretty little face of mine. And I'm like, that's awesome, man. We have never scheduled it.
Yeah. That's awesome though.
That's awesome for that.
That's the kind of support that can show someone how much you really appreciate it. If a guy in your firehouse details cars and he's kind of high, do it as a gift, right? Like show your wife, your girlfriend that you love them, buy that. But you know why? Because he or she that details that car is going to take the extra time because they understand, number one, is that you thought of him enough or her enough to get that. And number two is they're going to put the extra attention to it because of who it is. A lot, and same thing, like, man, the firefighters that I had that helped me with my house, it was right. Like, as an inspector, as a fire inspector, there were certain things that I looked at and I asked other building inspectors, I said, I want to know if this stuff is right. It's right. And so when you can support other people in your own network, it just, it's going to be well. I hear so many horror stories though. And for those that maybe aren't in business, but let me just say this, I hear horror stories and, Tom from, Burnbox kind of mentioned it is the majority of these businesses that are showcased online and social media are small. Like Taylor, even as big as they are on the internet, is what, 5 or fewer employees? I don't know that they're like huge.
They're expanding right now.
Okay. But I mean,
there were like for the longest time 3 people, and that's 5. I think they're like, as of probably today, minimum of 10 people now.
Yeah. So either way, it's not like they're crushing it, right? They're not some big company doing that. They are not huge, right? And so be empathetic to that. This is not Burger King with, 3,000 locations. Be empathetic to it, and they're trying to meet the demands. Just like when you get custom leather work or whatever, right? It is somebody who's putting their heart and soul into something for you.
Capital City Industries, it's months before they get to your helmet if you send it to them, but you're going to get taken care of.
Well, this has been awesome. Sure. I'm super stoked about it. Happy birthday, Adam.
Thank you very much, bud. I appreciate it.
And thank you for the nerd sign for everybody who's watching. Hey, cheers to 40. Right?
Yes. Let me get back.
Cheers to 40.
My pink lemonade.
Oh, there it is. There's my thing. Yeah.
Cheers.
Seltzer water, by the way. You can't see it because I got them. I got my blurred. Everybody loves my little stuff. All right.
Roll it, Gigi.
Before you leave, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give these firemen a huge thumbs up. Also, make sure you check out thecoolfireman.com for more. Thanks!